Welcome to the Undercovers podcast. I'm Ben along with Paul and Connor, and we are just about a month away from the draft. We are just actually under a month away from the draft, sorry, and it is 4 weeks from Thursday, so it is coming up shortly. It's like 30 days away, something like that.
Yeah,
So
something like that.
that's what most of the show will be centered around tonight, will be draft talk. But obviously, we had some breaking news happen shortly before the show. And one of them we're going to cover in our quick take. So let's just start off with, I guess, the elephant in the room, which is Stephon Diggs going back to the AFC East, but this time to a division rival. And now there are two former Bills receivers in the New England Patriots room. You kind of have like the complete opposite as far as like just maybe personalities and just like one's a completely selfless player in Matt Collins, and the other, Stephon Diggs, wants his targets, wants the ball, and he's not shy about it. But yeah, just quickly, Stephon Diggs back in the AFC East, signing a 3-year, $69 million contract, which nice. But anyways, 26 million guaranteed, which is as much as Devontae Adams got. And Adams obviously was more productive last year and isn't coming off of a really, really bad injury. Considering Diggs is coming off of a torn ACL and he won't be ready to start the season. We don't know how he's going to look. We at least kind of saw how Devontae looked at the end of last season. So just quickly before I get in my quick take, I know there's a lot of Bills fans wanting the reunion. Trust me, I was not one of them. I was trying
Me
to
neither.
shoot
No.
down any Bills fan on Twitter who wanted it. And now that you see the numbers, yeah, I am glad Brandon Beane stayed far, far away on this one. Considering we only gave Joshua Palmer 15 million guaranteed for a younger receiver with, in my opinion, more upside going
Mhm.
forward, because we still haven't seen the best of Joshua Palmer, in my opinion. Diggs, on the other hand, yeah, his best days are most likely behind him, and we have young developing wide receivers in our room, and even a guy like Curtis Samuel, I feel like, has more to offer for next season. And I don't want Keon Coleman's targets being taken away by Diggs, who we don't know how much left juice he has on the tank. But quickly, I think it's hilarious. Talk about some bad contracts. Is it Elliot Wolf, the Patriots GM? I believe it is Elliot Wolf, but he gave out some brutal contracts as free agency. Carlton Davis was probably like the best one, relatively speaking, but the Milton Williams contract for a guy who doesn't play 50% of the snaps, I think he's getting like 26 million AAV or something like that, among the top paid defensive tackles in the league. And then Diggs, obviously, kind of breaking the bank. I was most shocked that he got a multi-year deal considering the circumstances. But yeah, just quickly, you guys' thoughts on this before I get into my quick take?
You know what makes this really, really funny and just really baffling at the same time? Think about this. You've paid a guy $69 million over 3 years, 26 million of that's guaranteed. But what people are seeming to forget is that you're paying this guy that's coming off of an ACL tear at an age that is not very suitable, I would say, for a guy like him. That is a older wide receiver coming off of an ACL tear, and who knows if he's even really going to be healthy enough to play week 1. So
Correct.
you're throwing that money at a guy who may not even see the field on week 1. And when you ask for what, it seems plenty obvious that either A, nobody wanted to pay Stephon Diggs that kind of money, or two, Stephon Diggs wanted to go to the Patriots because he just wanted to see if he could get back at Buffalo and further a personal vendetta. Because it seems to me like if he wanted to do that, he couldn't do it with the Kansas City Chiefs. They're kind of loaded at the wide receiver position and don't really need a guy like him. And out of all of the up and comers in the AFC East, why not New England, the one with the most potential?
Well,
Sure, I
and the
mean,
most cap space, obviously, too.
well,
Yeah.
yeah, the most cap space. I mean, it's not like he's going to go to Miami. They're not going to be able to contend by adding Diggs. They don't gain
They
anything,
don't need Diggs because
and they
they
don't need him
have
anyway. Yeah,
receivers.
exactly.
They kind of did a Diggs-like experience last year, anyways, with Odell Beckham Jr. getting a wide receiver 3 shortly coming off of a torn ACL. Although Beckham has had more time to recover on that ACL injury than Diggs did. But yeah, that was almost like a Diggs like move to begin with, and it really didn't fit what the Jets are doing. And I don't think Justin Fields was going to be able to get him the ball anyways. But Paul,
Oh no.
let's hear your thoughts quickly because I got a few more to close up before I give a take.
Yeah, the Diggs thing, it doesn't come by surprise. They have the
Yeah, I
most
think a
cap
lot of us
space.
could have seen this
They
coming.
wanted, he already visited them, so it was going to come. It was just going to be what were the numbers. I mean, for a 31-year-old wide receiver coming off an ACL, I was not expecting about 26 million a year. I was thinking maybe he would get close to 20, but he's probably was just going to be in the range of like a simple $15 million. But they went out, maybe they see that he has some room left in the tank, and they said, you know what, if Josh Allen can build his career, starting with Stephon Diggs, maybe they think the same way with Drake May.
Oh
But
my God. Hold on. One quick second there, Paul. The guarantees slash actual length of deals are going to be way different, but Stephon Diggs' APY of 23 million exceeds that of Chris Godwin and Devontae Adams.
Yeah, I already mentioned that it blows
Yeah,
my
I know
mind
you mentioned
how he
Adams,
basically got the Adams deal.
but he got
Um,
the Godwin deal, and Chris Godwin is literally one of the key cornerstones in the Tampa Bay offense. You're gonna pay this guy who's coming off an ACL tear that much money?
yeah,
What are the
it doesn't make
Patriots
sense.
doing? I mean, sure, I get the idea. Get some veteran help for Drake May, get a presence in the locker room, but at what cost? I mean, yeah, you got the cap, but how when's he going to be able to actually play? And is he going to be even a shadow of what he was in Houston before the ACL
Even in
tear,
Houston.
which is not happening?
All right, Paul, closing thoughts on the Diggs.
uh, if it works, it's a great deal. If it doesn't work, this will backfire on the Patriots for a little bit, and it's honestly just go even it backfires on the Patriots. This literally goes right into your quick take, and the quick take here is as the
Well,
AC.
actually, hold on. I gotta do some closing thoughts on this.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't know.
Yes, no, you're
All
good.
right,
You're
you
good.
close it out.
Yes, yes. So, real quick, just to close out, I just think it's hilarious how the Patriots thought they were potentially getting T. Higgins, Chris Godwin, who Connor mentioned, who actually took less money to go back to Tampa Bay,
Legend.
or Brandon Ayuk. They missed out on 3 other wide receivers and Cooper Kupp. I mean, I would have taken Cooper Kupp over over Stephon Diggs.
Hmm.
Just because I mean, I know Cooper Kupp has injury concerns himself, but also the perfect counter move to this would be Brandon Bean going out and signing Stephon Gilmore ASAP to lock
Oh
Diggs
man.
up. That would be cinema because former Patriot against former Bill receiver. Obviously, um, Gilmore used to play for the Bills as well. But Paul, I'm actually going to be calling an audible on my quick take tonight. We did
Oh
Okay.
talk
boy.
about the AFC East last week, and the other news of the day kind of sparked an idea in my head, as far as the quick take goes. So it looks like the quarterback carousel is kind of closing up on the offseason. The Giants signed another veteran quarterback, and another news of the
Oh
day, which
man.
was almost as funny as the Diggs news before the Diggs news happened, was the Giants are giving
Yeah.
$21 million to Russell Wilson. So they definitely looks like will not be taking Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders because they also signed Jameis Winston. And now it's pretty obvious that if Rodgers does indeed playing, which he hasn't shown any signs of retirement, that he will most likely go to Pittsburgh. So my quick take is going to be, out of all the new quarterbacks that have found new teams this year, let's just go with the
Mhm.
big ones. Rodgers on Pittsburgh, which hasn't happened yet, but we expect it to happen. Russell Wilson on the Giants, of course, Sam Darnold to Seattle, and then Geno Smith to Vegas. Which one will have the most success with their new team this upcoming season? And for me, I think it's going to be Geno Smith, because you look at who they brought in for head coach. Yes, I know it is a loaded division, but the Raiders are actually kind of competitive with way worse quarterback play and terrible coaching. I mean, they've had Josh McDaniels and Antonio Pierce for the 3 last seasons, and they still, I mean, they went wire to wire to Kansas City multiple times and even beat them once. I know division games are usually closer, but now that they have a legit starting quarterback, they pick number 6, so they basically can go best player available. And if they were to add a Tatora McMillan and then potentially one of the stud running backs in the second round, they could be cooking with gas on offense, because Geno last year was still top in the league in deep passing metrics and put up very solid numbers. I just think the reason they didn't make the playoffs, part of it was, I think it was a tiebreaker due to strength of schedule or something like that, because they did end with 10 wins tying the Rams, but the Rams ended up beating them on that tiebreaker. But they started the season hot, then had that rough patch. I mean, obviously he doesn't have a DK and Njigba or Tyler Lockett, but if they were to add to Tora McMillan between Brock Bowers, McMillan, a rookie running back, and Jacoby Myers, that's a very solid core group of weapons for Geno. And I think Geno still has something left in the tank. My runner-up, I would say, even though Pittsburgh made some additions themselves, I think they're kind of stuck in the mediocrity cycle with Mike Tomlin. No matter who's their starting quarterback, I still expect them to finish 9-8, 10-7, nothing better. Seattle, I am interested in Seattle, and I guess you could kind of throw in Minnesota with McCarthy in this equation, but I was mostly going off of new quarterbacks on different teams. So I guess we won't use McCarthy here, but I think Sam Darnold has potential with Cooper Kupp and Njigba, but I need to see how Seattle rounds out their roster, which, I mean, it's the same with the Raiders, but the Giants, we all know they're in tank mode anyways. But out of all those new quarterbacks, I expect Geno to have the best season and the Raiders to potentially make the playoffs.
Ben, how could you say the Giants are in tank mode? They signed Jameis Winston. Even over Russell Wilson, he's going to start. You know it's going to happen. Russell's going to start. He's going to flame out in 3 weeks. Jameis Winston's going to come in, throw bombs to Malik Neighbors, yell at the opposing defensive lines to jump off sides, and lead the Giants to the promised land. It's going to happen.
But
it's the power of Jameis Winston.
I wish it does happen, but the fact that they went out and signed Wilson after they already had a capable veteran in Winston on the team doesn't really make any sense. But as far as you guys go, do you agree, disagree with my quick take that the Raiders are primed to have the best season with their new quarterback?
I think it's a fairly interesting one, sure, because I feel like your bar is very, very low.
It is, but
the Raiders are bad. The Giants are even worse.
Yeah. And the Seahawks were kind of competitive, but the thing is,
no, they were a great team. The only reason they didn't make the playoffs with that tie is because they lost a strength of victory tiebreaker, because who they did not beat? The Bills. The Rams beat the Bills, and the Rams did.
Well, it is interesting, though, because that Seattle quarterback is now in Vegas. And do we expect Darnold to be the same Darnold of old, or as he was last year in Minnesota, or is he going to be the Jets Darnold? Like, I feel like he's too much of a mixed bag. Like, at least we've seen multiple years of consistent play from Geno. We have yet to see that from Sam Darnold.
Oh, well, yeah, no, you're absolutely right. The Vikings gave Sam Darnold everything in the world to succeed. The Raiders
still kind of fell on his face in the playoffs. Yep.
Well, the Rams are just that good, so.
Correct.
What else are you supposed to expect when Jared Verse and Braden Fisk are running right at you?
No, that is also fair. Paul.
I don't disagree. I was Probably was if this was my quick take, I probably would have said Sam Darnold in Seattle. But like, I mean, kind of to like Connor's point, like, and to your point too as well. It's like we haven't seen Sam Darnold, can be consistent in back to back years of having great seasons. You look at Minnesota; they had Justin Jefferson, one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. That's Sam Darnold gets to throw to. He also had a really good offensive line in Minnesota, which allowed him to have time to throw to all of his weapons, Jefferson and Addison. You look in Seattle, what Sam Darnold's going to be throwing to is an aging Cooper Cup and JSN. And the offensive line isn't built the same way as it was in Minnesota. So we'll see. It's a plug and play situation with Sam Darnold and the Seattle Seahawks. Does it work? Does he have time to throw to the complement of receivers that he has, or does that hinder him to have to not have any success in Seattle? I think Geno Smith, with the with having Pete Carroll as the head coach as his head coach with the Raiders, I think that helps Geno Smith a lot. Some familiarity between Seattle and Vegas, and I think that could help the this next steps of building a successful franchise in Vegas.
All right. We'll let you go. We'll let you roll with that.
All right, let's
We got
head it
another one.
over to Connor's quick take.
Oh, boy.
As there's still a defensive end that's still sitting on the market as of 7:54 p.m. on a Tuesday night is Trey Hendrickson. I'm giving you the task to land him somewhere. So where is the best landing spot for Trey Hendrickson?
Well, so I have to preface this by saying, first of all, I was given a very specific rule to not immediately say the Bills.
Yes,
So I would have said the
there is the
Bills
rule. That's
because
a little caveat there.
that would have been an absolutely major addition to the Bills line. But I gave this some thought throughout the day, and I think I have an interesting idea, even though
Mhm.
this is I would consider this an even longer shot that the Jets could win a playoff game or the Dolphins could make the playoffs. But picture this, if you will, okay? So Trey Hendrickson, he's not going to get paid by Cincinnati, and he's not going to get paid what he wants to get paid by Cincinnati. They've got all of their cap space tied into three guys on the offense. You would have to tweak so much stuff to be able to even afford a contract for him at this point. You know what I think would be the absolute best way for Trey Hendrickson to be like, you know what? Screw you guys. You didn't want to pay me. I'm going to go ruin your lives twice a year. He goes and signs with either the Steelers or he signs with the Ravens and vaults their defensive line onto another plane of existence. Now, the Steelers don't really need him. He'd be more of, what's the word I'm looking for here? The rich get richer when it comes to defensive line. They've already got Cam Hayward. They send TJ Watt on multiple blitz packages. Adding
But
Trey Hendrickson would just make it even
my
worse.
question is, do you think Cincinnati would even entertain that?
No.
Right.
The
So
only way it happens is if Trey Hendrickson
I know
basically
that's
says,
your
I want
fantasy,
to go there.
but
No,
is
no, no. That's all it is, because at the end of the day, Trey Hendrickson would have to straight up say, I want to go there.
and even then, Cincinnati could easily decline his offer or his request, which they've already done because last year he requested a trade and they didn't trade him. And number two, Pittsburgh would have to send a godfather offer for the Bengals to even consider sending their best defensive player to their biggest rivals.
Well, Kevin Colbert is no longer the GM. Omar Khan is. So maybe this is a sign that they are willing to get a little more aggressive with pursuing trades. I mean, look at what they've already done. In all the years, in those 13 years, I would have never expected the Steelers to be very active in free agency. This season, they absolutely have been, and it's kind of wild. Sure, it's been a bunch of older guys in the secondary. Darius Slay comes to mind immediately. But the fact that they were even in the conversation at all is just crazy. But now
Right.
all of a sudden, why not just do something even crazier instead of having everybody in the world think you're going to get Aaron Rodgers, pull a psych and get Trey Hendrickson. Why not, right? It's a very big long shot. I'd rather him go to the Bills. He fits a much greater need with the Bills,
I'll
but
just throw out another potential team in there. What about the Colts? Because they do have
Okay.
his former. It's not in the division number one. They have his former defensive coordinator there,
oh,
and yes,
wait. Okay, so you remember how I
and
was
Lou
talking earlier?
Anarumo, and the Colts have that capital, and they kind of need a pass rush. I mean, I know they drafted Latu, but I mean, you can never have enough pass rush, as we know in the NFL.
So, really quick, I just saw this. So, apparently, according to Adam Schefter, just tweeted this out. New Patriots wide receiver Stephon Diggs, who's coming off a torn ACL suffered in Week 8 versus the Colts, is on track to return for Week 1 of the upcoming season. So that factors in why they gave him the contract that they did. But I'm kind of skeptical on that. That's one of those I'll believe it when I see it moments
Right.
because is it he can say what he wants. Diggs can. Yeah, I'll start week 1, no problem. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Maybe yeah, and risk something happening to you. Okay, buddy.
Right. Yeah. That's. I agree with you. That's kind of a. I'll believe it when I see it. But
Mhm.
kind of some longer quick takes tonight because we obviously had the bomb, which was the Diggs news, obviously. Um, so let's now get into the regular part of the program. Let
The
me just
one that really matters.
right. Let me just pull up our. There we go. So far out of the moves the Bills have made in this offseason, are the Bills better or just the same? And there should be a third option, so I'll add it, or possibly worse. I would say right now on defense, I don't think they could have gotten really worse, even though um cornerback two is there's still a hole there at that position. They did upgrade at the defensive end position, in my opinion, going from Joey or Von Miller to Joey Bosa. Um, but we still kind of need a corner two and some interior defensive line help, especially with Michael Hoyt and Larry Ogunjobi missing the first 6 games of the season. Um, and then obviously on offense, we lost Matt Collins, and that was pretty much it, right? I guess Quentin
Mhm.
Morris is still a free agent. We could always bring him back, but we did retain, in my opinion, the more important players in Reggie Gilliam, Ty Johnson, as Josh Allen calls
Yeah,
him, the best third down back in football. And we added Josh Palmer, which, I guess
huge.
Amari Cooper, I guess we kind of forgot about him, but um,
Duh.
he was kind of forgettable with his play on the field last year. Sorry, Amari, not sorry.
Hmm.
Yeah, you're kind of cooked, buddy. But yeah, I mean, outside of the, we still kind of have to see what the Bills do in the draft as they round out this roster. But on paper, I would say, yeah, the Bills are better.
Mhm. That's
I
because we are.
I don't disagree. You look at these two additions. Is really just it feels like what this offseason is going to be centered around until we figure out what the Bills, draft class looks like. Josh Palmer and Joey Bosa are right now the two best signings the Bills have made this season. You look at Joshua Palmer immediately makes the offense better. He's that guy that, he might not separate, well, but he's kind of the perfect younger replacement for Amari Cooper. You look at where Amari Cooper ranked high, Joshua Palmer ranked higher than him in many categories. Josh Palmer had the best win rate among 2024 Bills wide
Mhm.
receivers last year. Who was the second best win rate in the Bills in 2024 was Amari Cooper. So it's that perfect younger replacement for Amari Cooper. But Joshua Palmer brings more than just winning at the line. He can just separate versus man. Uh, Palmer ranked eighth best in the NFL again, getting separation against man coverage last year. Keon Coleman ranked 54th, Hollins ranked 71st, Shakir ranked 82nd, and Kincaid ranked 86th last year. Palmer immediately just makes an impact for the Bills offense. Then you look at Joey Bosa. You look at Joey Bosa in limited snaps and limited games last year because of injury. He had 5 sacks in 9 starts last year for the Chargers. He would have ranked 4th among Bills pass rushers last year in sacks. So he's already a top 5 pass rusher in the Bills defense right now. So even though Bosa is a little bit injury prone right now, he still makes an immediate impact for the Bills in free agency and heading into the 2025 season. So I think both of those moves, plus the other ones with restructures and bringing people back, makes this offseason and the Bills, I believe, better than what they were last year at the receiver position and at the edge rusher spot.
Yeah, it's just a matter of how many snaps you're going to give a guy like Joey Bosa, because you better not give him many. With that injury history, that man better be like a 3rd down stop guy or a 4th down stop guy exclusively, because there is no way I would trust him with even 50% of the snaps. I'm afraid that you're going to get a guy like him out there. You're going to play him overly too much, and then bam, something's going to happen and he's gone for the season. That's why the Bills signed him to the deal they did, because I'd be a little scared too. Because at the end of the day, if he doesn't get, you know, any meaningful playing time, this is why the Bills signed him with no guaranteed money and for 1 year. Because at that point, you cut him and it's done. But I do have to obviously make the comment, because it is my personal victory Tuesday. I am loving the fact that we decided when we traded Kyer Elam that Josh Palmer would in fact retain the number 5, his number in LA, and of course the number of the GOAT himself, who won at Homestead Miami Speedway last Sunday. And yeah, he is bringing that energy and that aura of the 5 back to the Bills in the right way, as opposed to the wrong way when it was Kyer Elam. So on that alone, Josh Palmer is going to be an incredible player for the Bills. But aside from
Question now,
answer,
are you going to get a Josh Palmer jersey?
maybe,
What do you mean maybe?
maybe.
You got to
You're
get
not
one.
going to ride the 5, or you're just going
I
to
might.
say it and just
No,
not
no,
sneak
to
it?
be honest, he's on the list. I still need other ones, you know. I
On the
need that
list.
Christian
Okay.
Bedford jersey because I'm just that confident we're going to sign him. So,
All right.
other than that, let me actually finish the thoughts on the take itself. I still believe the Bills did in fact get better. It's a lot of addition by subtraction for the Bills this offseason, especially at linebacker. You know, Von Miller was definitely getting way up there in terms of age. It was necessary to let him go. It just is a shame that you couldn't follow that up with Myles Garrett, but that was more of a pipe dream than anything else. You just need to look to the draft to fill that hole on defense. But there's also no doubt in my mind that it'll probably be cornerback as the Bills' biggest need. The only problem with that is that they have really telegraphed it to everyone. So if a team like the Dolphins, a team like the Patriots, a team like the Jets, even a team like the Chiefs, or just any competition in the AFC for the Bills realizes that they have the same need, they know that they can jump the Bills, because the Bills are going to be the team to draft the cornerback, whether it's Trey Amos, my boy Ezra Thomas, or just anyone. They know what they got to do. So we have to go into the draft with that in mind, unless we can sign Stephon Gilmore, which I would love that personally. I've always wanted Stephon Gilmore on one of my teams, and that would be incredible to have him here. So I'm just going to end on that note. The Bills got better by subtraction. They're really going to look to the draft this, to fill out the rest of the team, and that's kind of what I'm hoping that we can do. And it all starts with drafting both Azure Thomas at least by the 2nd round and Joshua Farmer by the 5th, 6th round. and
You
fulfilled
might
the destiny
you
as
might
the
have to
Buffalo
get
Seminoles.
you might have to get Farmer in round 2 the way his stock is going up right now.
Don't remind me.
We could still take Alex Mastromano and Ryan Fitzgerald to have the
This is
all
true.
FSU special teams unit, which
I would
be
yes.
awesome.
You know what? No, wait, Ben, you and I, we know. All right. Imagine Alex and Ryan both as the Bills' primary special teams units. Get rid of Tyler Bass and his absolutely absurd contract for a kicker, and have a guy who was absolute money for a
Perfect from
bad
50
team.
plus yards last year.
Yep.
And
One of the best
mind
kickers in
you,
the
he
entire
absolutely
ACC.
nailed a 60-yarder in Indy at the combine.
Yep. I mean,
Paul, let's get
that
to
is I would draft him. If he's there in the 6th, 7th, I would draft him right away. I'm not taking any chances. Get him. Get
Paul,
Ryan
The
Fitzgerald.
back to moderating these two for not taking the entire show to making an FSU draft talk.
Go Noles.
It means draft. It means draft season is
You're
back.
giving us an idea now. Now we have to have a show specifically about FSU draft talk.
Yep, go Noles.
It could be a special edition. We can rebrand
Just-
Connor's Take for a day or something, or just do it Noel's Takes or something.
let's go.
Speaking of draft, we're about to get into the bulk of the show, which is just draft talk, not specifically Knowles, unfortunately, but we may talk about the Knowles again there.
We will.
Paul, let's hear your thoughts on the roster pre-draft before we round it out, obviously, with our draft class.
Pre-draft right now, I think the Bills, as currently constructed, needs really two main pieces. One is defensive end or tackle, one of the two, and then the other is corner. That's literally what the two biggest needs on the Bills right now. It seems as the draft, as it is getting closer, we're now about 4 weeks away, that fans and media members are kind of hinting towards that corner might be a bigger issue than defensive tackle or even defensive end. We all know that the defensive class this year is super deep. So this will probably run just as the last year's wide receivers class, into like the 4th, maybe 5th round, where as you get deeper, you still will find that one really good player in the 2nd, 3rd, or maybe 4th round. Depends how the draft, flows and where the runs are. This is where I'm feeling where if the Bills decide to go corner, we'll obviously talk a little bit about that later. But if the Bills want to go corner round 1, you would have to take it with special care because we already know the draft PTSD is Kyer Elam. And, not taking the right corner in the right spot could lead into a possible catastrophe at that position. So, do we just want to now just jump right into the first draft discussion?
Oh,
Yes.
yeah. Let's go.
All right, this comes from Connor yesterday talking about big splash moves. He brought up the idea, what if the Bills all of a sudden says, you know what, screw the picks, screw the capital. Let's go up and just go grab, Travis Hunter and just get into the top 5 of this draft. So, GMs in the past, have made that splash trade to move up. What would be a splash move the Bills must make this draft?
Well, because this was the idea that I had literally thought about for a long time before we got the show set up, I just want to go revisit the draft that actually gave me the idea, which was the 2016 NFL draft when the Los Angeles Rams traded up from, I believe they had the 14th pick at the time, and they wound up trading with the Tennessee Titans. They sent them a haul. Okay, they were at 15. So the Rams acquired the number 1 overall pick from the Tennessee Titans. They got that one. They got a 4th round pick in 2016 and a 6th round pick in 2016 on top of that. And this was seen back then as the ultimate we are absolutely going to go all in on whoever we take at number 1 overall for the quarterback. And as we all know, they went Jared Goff, which in my opinion worked out. They got to a Super Bowl, even though they didn't win, they still got to one. So along those parameters, I don't believe the Bills are going to actually be able to make a similar trade because that was a 15 to number 1 overall trade back then. You would have to give a lot more. And you can't just say James Cook in that list, if you tried to trade him away, because he's not going to give you much more capital to go into that higher range, like top 5 overall, I'm talking. But if you wanted a guy like Travis Hunter, who I have seen nothing but, if there's been 100 takes I've seen 99 good ones and one bad one all over the internet. So the thing is, it's going to be very hard. Your best shot, if you're the Bills and you want to make that kind of a move without giving up the majority of your future, like I'm talking next year's first and maybe even the 2027 first round overall pick, you're going to probably get in that range of about maybe 10 at the peak. And when you go and look at who's got what pick, you ideally want to trade with a team in the NFC because they're going to be the ones that might take a little bit less than if you tried to trade with an AFC team because that's your premier competition. If you guys see where I'm going with that. So the idea would be that you would have to already know, yeah, this is the guy. We looked at him, we scouted him. We aren't leaving this. We are not leaving this war room without him. Point blank, full stop. They've got to know exactly what they're getting, and that's what the Rams did when they traded with the Titans for Jared Goff. So if the Bills have a guy that high, like, sure, we'll say Travis Hunter, but there's a very high likelihood he does not go. I don't believe we'll be on watching on draft night. I don't believe he is going to get outside of Jacksonville. Once Jacksonville is on the clock, and if Hunter is still on the board, he will be gone right then and there. There has been so much talk in the Jag circles about Travis Hunter. I'm telling you, they'll be the ones to get him if no one else jumps him to do it. But it would take a lot. But I think out of every year, this is the Bills' year to do something like that because you were literally a drop and a misjudged first down from making the Super Bowl in Josh Allen's best year. I mean, MVP Josh Allen. Let's be real here. You were that close. And there is no way you could say that Josh Allen could only get worse. As a matter of fact, he could only get better. As a matter of fact, he's still got quite a lot of prime football left. You've got to do something extensive now. And this is the best time to do it. Obviously, you're not going to be able to trade into the the top 5. But if you could trade into the top 10 on a guy on the defensive line or corner that you are certain about, then do it. Come out of there with a guy like I said about Travis Hunter, probably just a little out of range, but a guy like Kenneth Grant, do it. Make it happen. Get that guaranteed generational talent that will anchor the defensive line for decades. Like Cam Hayward. Think of Cam Hayward. You want a guy like that. Loyal and anchors the line for a long time. Okay, I said my piece.
All right.
Oh, you go.
I'll I will say this as as top splash trades. If you're going to make a splash trade, you would think it would have to happen within I don't know the top 10, top 15. For this kind of like Bean's really standing on business with this being aggressive. But I think if you're Bean, your splash move might not be that. Might be in the top 15, top 20. You're still going to give up a few extra picks because you're going higher than 2-3 picks before you. So, it will cost you just a little bit more. But if you look at a guy maybe like Barron. Barron is a perfect example of maybe going up and making a splash trade. He's a man corner. He's very competitive at the line, and he's also run support corner, and he's really good in areas that you need, and he will be an instant cornerback to uh splash move type player. He's probably going to go in the top 15, top 20. And if he falls, I think Bean would be watching the board and where the run on corners might be. And he says, okay, I'm dead set on Barron and I really want him. And this is the direction we're going. I'm going to take him. Same thing with Will Johnson. Will Johnson's a similar guy, but he's physical at the line, can excel in man and zone. He's just a ball hawk. Johnson can go anywhere from the top 10 to the top 15, and if teams really fear his injury, he can slip into the top 20 range. But I think he goes anywhere from 10 to 15. So if you're being like thinking like, okay, cornerback 2 is the must get in round 1, Barron and Johnson would fit the I'm going to make a splash trade move. And then there's the outlier of Matthew Golden standing out there is like, if he goes in that 10 to 15 range, and if Bean says that's the guy I want, I'm 1000% jumping on that with Brandon Bean.
Oh,
Well,
Lord have mercy. You
sorry,
are probably the biggest Matthew Golden supporter out of anybody. Stop it.
Yes.
Wide receiver round 1 would be a move where
So
that's not a serious move.
I see Connor obviously celebrating his victory Tuesday, so he can't have his normal tagline to knock some sense into Paul, but
remember, children, defense wins championships.
I was just gonna say that, and I'll echo it. Defense wins championships. You stole my thunder previously, Paul. It would be Jahdae Barron as well, or Kenneth Grant, as Connor stated. Speaking of secondary, next topic. So we kind of touched on this a bit already, so we'll just get through this quickly. Is taking a corner or safety at 30 without moving up, would this pick be considered a reach or a great pick? I think it always depends on who the player is. If it's Malachi Starks or a Barron or even a Trey Amos or Azrae Thomas, I'll throw him in there too. I think it's a great pick. Now, keep in mind, if they take one of those players above Kenneth Grant, I might be like, I still probably have Grant on my personal board above all those other guys. And I think D-tackle is slightly a bigger need considering our coaching staff has always proved we can do more with less with worse corners, although having 2 elite outside corners with an elite slot corner would just be absolute heaven for the defense. I would and we could finally get some coverage sacks, which it seems like we never are able to generate. So, I mean, that could also help the defensive line getting an elite corner. So I don't think it would be considered a reach. It depends on the player, obviously, but yeah, I'm on board of secondary defensive tackle, either player round 1. Just take the best player that's going to make this defensive roster better.
Let the man cook, especially when it comes to Azrae Thomas. If we draft Azrae Thomas, it will be the same reaction on live air that I had when we drafted Keon Coleman. Exactly the same one. That will be like the instant rookie jersey buy will be Azrae Thomas. I am not kidding.
I don't even.
Yeah, I did. I bought the Keon jersey literally the night of the draft when it happened. That easy.
I mean, like Ben said, I think it goes down to who are you taking. If the Bills are going to be taking Barron or Johnson, at 30, I think that it's an absolute steal if they're there, in that 25-30 range. You absolutely do that. If you're taking a guy maybe like Amos or Azrae Thomas at 30, I would prefer those guys in the second round. I wouldn't necessarily call them
at either of our second round picks. I'm telling you that now. Like you
right.
would have
So
to
I
trade
wouldn't
down in
consider
that
them
scenario.
as.
But I think Trey Amos is absolutely a first round caliber prospect. If you look at his tape and what he would bring to this defense.
So, like, if you decide not to move up at 30, one of those two could work. You might go defensive tackle, or this range would be Kenneth Grant, or maybe a Tyleik Williams or a Hammond at 30, and then you use one of your 2 seconds to move up to go get or Amos or Thomas, or even if you feel like Amos is going to go and pick 30, 31, or 32, then you're like, okay, maybe we do take a small reach. I wouldn't call Amos or Thomas like a massive reach, but if they think that trading up from one of your 2 second-round picks would be too much to give up, to move up in the second round rather than taking them at 30. Okay, I would be cool with that, but I don't feel like if you're not going to move up for Barron or Johnson, I feel corner could be an easy decision with one of your 2 second-round picks, probably your first. So that would be easier to move up, to grab Thomas or Amos in that situation.
Yeah, and then what we saw with Bean last season, where he literally traded out just so he could say, "I don't want to pay a guy a first round contract." Watch it
Yeah.
happen again.
Hope that's not the case. But let's head into our back half of the draft discussions. Trends of the past few drafts. Bean has been always the guy that, been the guy that says, higher upside in development is normally the route to go. And it seems like
Mhm.
he feels that way in the last few drafts. Is this the draft the Bills must add difference makers and not developmental pieces?
Yes, the Bills have a team ready to win now. They've
Mhm.
drafted enough projects in the past. Get the guy who's ready to come out and either sack Mahomes in the AFC Championship or pick him off, because that is the player we need on this roster today.
Literally, what did I just say? Like, not even 15 minutes ago. What did I just say? This is a team that is built to win now. You've got to get that difference maker now. And if you got to trade a freaking farm to get him, you do it. No matter who that is, whether it is Kenneth Grant, whether it is Azure Thomas, whether that even might be, say you're, like day 3 and a receiver falls into your lap that kind of fell a little bit, go get them. Do what you got to do to get those impact players.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I was doing a mock draft the other day that not for the Bills, it was actually for the Steelers, that absolutely gives more credence to this, because what happened was Tetero and McMillan, that wide receiver, fell all the way down to where the Steelers pick in the first round of this draft. That was an instant grab. I didn't even think twice. If a guy like that falls that far, you do what you got to do. You make sure you come away with that guy no matter what the cost is. Well, within reason, actually. You can't really say, no matter the cost, because that can lead to overpaying for a guy that winds up being not good. So, all in hindsight.
I feel like it's like an almost an every year discussion with Brandon Bean, is this the draft he must do this? And for some reason, we say yes, like this the draft for difference makers, and he ends up getting to that point where there's a difference maker on the board, and then he goes with the developmental project, whether it's because he fears culture in the Bills system is important, but sometimes if culture riffs just a little bit, you can maybe fix that in the way you teach the player for your system. And that player that you might have missed on because, A, B, or C is now a stud for somebody else. You go
Oh,
back, let's say you go back to last year's draft, and you're just like, there's 5 guys that could be difference makers on the Bills in the future, right? most of them are still in the works of development. 2023, there's one difference maker. Two players still have potential to get there. 2022 was the year where I thought, man, Bean really did well. He drafted Cook, Bernard, Shakir, and Benford in the 2022 NFL draft, and they're all studs and difference makers to the Bills' current roster right now. Yes, it all took them maybe a year to get there, but I feel like the 2025 Bills draft class has to be at least better than the 2022 draft class, where you're just drafting stud after stud after stud. Why? Because the Bills, like you guys said, are in win now. This
Oh, yeah.
isn't time to lay back and pick the developmental pieces that you wait a year and then they're in the off and in their offense or defense. This is the year where you grab a pass rusher and he's going to have 6, 7, 8 sacks in his rookie season. This is the year where you go out and do that. If it costs you just a pick or two to move up to go get that person, you do it. You don't trade down and acquire more draft capital and draft developmental guys. This is the year where you go out and you just be aggressive. And he said at the combine, he wants to be aggressive. The draft is literally going to test that theory of how aggressive Bean is going to be on draft day for Thursday through Saturday. How aggressive are you going to be? All right. Let's head right into our final topic for the night. Kind of a big board outlook, maybe a little bit of our big board preview, but one player the Bills cannot leave without in the NFL draft this year. One player.
Ben, I feel like this one's all you.
I'm going Kyle Williams, the wide receiver with the namesake
Yeah,
of
the wide receiver. We're not
of
dumping
one of
the original Kyle Williams into the fountain of youth.
right.
I
But
wish we could do that for Troy Polamalu though.
right. But no, the I wish we could do that for Kyle Williams because him next to Ed Oliver would be awesome. But anyways, the wide receiver with the namesake of the Bills drought legend, he is on the smaller side, but if you look at his profile, he is kind of what the Bills are looking for. Can play outside and inside. Speedy wide receiver, ran a 4.4 at the combine. I saw a video yesterday on the timeline circulate, which is still on my page, I believe, of him absolutely cooking Travis Hunter, arguably the best corner in this draft in a vertical route. So get me Kyle Williams. His stock is kind of rising now, so you may even have to take him day 2. I wouldn't mind because we have extra draft capital thanks to the Kyle Elam trade. A trade up potentially into the 3rd round to make sure we get our guy. But if they can somehow add Kyle Williams, I will be ecstatic. Defense, I think there's quite a few players that could fit this profile because between Amos, obviously, Azrae Thomas, then you got Darian Porter, Maxwell Harrison, even Siobhan Ravel, I believe is his name, out of ECU, even though he is coming off a torn ACL. And then there are plenty of one-techs that would fit the bill, no pun intended, on the bill. So, yeah, give me Kyle Williams and let's rock.
Yeah, I think Kyle Williams has grown on me for the last little bit. In talks with other Bills fans, it's like, okay, this guy
Kyle Williams agenda instead of the Matthew Golden agenda, Paul, because that is a lot more.
There we go.
I could definitely.
That is a lot more realistic of a dream. I'll just say that, just so you aren't disappointed.
I like the idea.
Dream just a little bit longer, okay?
Stop
you guys dreamed a long time with Keon Coleman last year. I'll need to have my dream.
Well, that was realistic. We needed a wide receiver desperately.
Okay. And we got the one that fits the system the best.
So I think this is going to, you picked a later round guy. I think I'm going to pick a guy that's going to be in the upper rounds and probably just be round 1 here. I feel like the Bills can't leave without Kenneth Grant.
Okay, I like that. I thought you were going to go Matthew Golden. I was like,
I was about to say the same thing. I was like, if
say Matthew Golden after our discussion now. But yes, I would love Kenneth Grant.
Yeah, the Bills can't leave without this 6'3", 339 monster. This guy just is a big people eater. He's going to move the offensive line for you. He might not be he still might need to work a little bit on his pass rushing skills. But other than that, he's a really good run stopper, and he's the guy that just will get up in the tackles, and he will be there when you need him the most. I feel like Kenneth Grant, the Bills' biggest issue last year was stopping the run. Kenneth Grant says, I can do exactly what you need me to do.
That's exactly what I was hoping you'd say. Is just because I would have also said Kenneth Grant, but thankfully, because you said Kenneth Grant and Ben said Mike Williams, that frees me
Kyle
Kyle
up to
Williams.
Matthew
say
Holden. Just kidding.
exactly who I was going to hope to get to say because I was afraid somebody was going to say it first. But obviously, second round, the Bills cannot leave without Azare Thomas.
Oh, I knew
Like
you were
you all
going
knew
there.
I was going to say it if one of you didn't say it. We
Cue the
need
war chant.
we need CB2 desperately. And unless you could find a way to get Trey Amos, who is like one of the most coveted cornerbacks that's around that range that the Bills would pick, 30, which I don't think you will. Azare Thomas is just a legend. Like you get this guy and you are set at quarterback, even if you, for whatever reason, somehow, lose Benford again, he will slot in and be that guy that could corner your entire secondary for a long time. Like there have been so many highlights of Azare Thomas. Just go look up any of the games and watch Azare Thomas cook. He actually did have better numbers if you're one of those numbers people. He actually did have better stats in a lot of key areas than Travis Hunter himself. Just keep that in mind. I mean, Azare Thomas is just on another level. The Bills need cornerback help desperately. If I'm Brandon Beane, I'm not leaving the draft. I'm not leaving the war room without Azare Thomas coming to the Bills. Period.
And that should wrap up our show for tonight. Some great discussions on Diggs joining the AFC East, as well as Connor's pipe dream of Trey Hendrickson playing opposite TJ Watt. And then, of course,
Wouldn't that be
some
something?
roster talk and, some draft talk, obviously. And we still will have plenty of more draft talk where this came from tonight, because the draft is 4 weeks away from Thursday. So
Yeah.
as we ramp up, there will obviously be more news to follow. Hopefully, we get a couple more small signings, obviously, for the Bills. I would like a corner, either Asante Samuel Jr. or Stephon Gilmore would be awesome. And, we'll get some of these top 30 visits. We'll start to do some mock drafts. Either next week or the week after. We could do maybe our first official Undercovers mock draft. That would be fun. And then hopefully we can still get Dean on
Mm-hmm.
before the draft. But other than that, that will wrap up the show tonight. And as always, like, comment, and subscribe on all of the following audio platforms in the link
Mm-hmm.
below. And follow us all on X, and go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.